Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢 Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 30th of August 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We will be covering 5 topics from polity, economics, and a topic from governance. Alongside this, we will also be discussing 2 previous year prelims questions at the end of the discussion. So, with this straight away, let us move to our first article of the day. First article, the Election Commission Autonomy in the crosshairs. See, in the case of Anup Baranwal versus Union of India case, a 5-judge constitution bench of Supreme Court ruled anonymously that powerful committee must choose the Chief Election Commission and election commissioners. As per this ruling, the committee has the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India as members. In addition to this, there are certain other changes introduced by Supreme Court regarding the selection of election commissioners. Let us know that one by one. See, there are just 5 articles in the constitution that are related to election commission. That is Article 324 to Article 329 in Part 15 of the constitution deals with the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners. The constitution does not lay down a specific legislative process for the appointments of CEC and ECs. And currently, the President makes the appointments on the advice of Union Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. The Supreme Court has now given the opposition and the judiciary a say in a matter, ruling that Chief Election Commissioners and election commissioners must be appointed by the President on the advice of committee comprising PM, Leader of Opposition, and Chief Justice of India, as said earlier. Other observations made by Supreme Court in respect of the Election Commission are: first is with respect to the secure tenure. The Supreme Court noted that the condition of service of election commissioners after appointment should not be varied to their disadvantage. That is, these directions hold that the tenures of election commissioners should not be disturbed in any way, and know that the Election Commission Act of 1991 requires that CEC and ECs must hold the post for a period of 6 years. Then the another observation which was held by Supreme Court is with respect to the expenses from the Consolidated Fund of India. The court had made an appeal to the Parliament and Union Government to set up a permanent secretariat which draws its expenses directly from the Consolidated Fund of India and not from the government. Now let us know what are the needs for change in selection of election commissioners. See, first is to uphold the Constitution. Article 324 of the Constitution stipulates that CEC and election commissioners shall be appointed by the President, subjected to the provisions of any law that are made by the Parliament. It may not have happened in the last 70 years, but this change will help make the constitutional requirement happen. Then second factor is to ensure free and fair elections. As a constitutional body vested with several powers of superintendence, direction, and control over elections, the ECI is a vital component of the Republic that requires functional freedom and constitutional protections to ensure free and fair elections. So, certain changes proposed by Supreme Court can be taken into account to ensure these 5 factors. Then the third factor is to end monopoly. To end the government monopoly and exclusive control over the appointments of highest poll body. Then to bring uniformity. See, the judgment also brings a certain uniformity in appointment procedures across institutions and statutory bodies. By this way, it says they will be responsible for independent maintenance of democracy and institutional autonomy. Then, final factor is to fulfill the historical demand. The demand for an independent system for the appointment of members of Election Commission goes back nearly 50 years. It has been repeatedly recommended in various committees such as Justice Tarkunde Committee, Dinesh Goswami Committee, Second ARC report, and even the Law Commission of India in its 255th report recommended for certain changes in appointments of election commissioner. Now let us know what are the advantages of the changes to the process of selecting election commissioners. The advantage of neutral selection committee for selecting election commissioners are like it addresses the conflict of interest inherent in current selection process. Then it also ensures the election commission's credibility and insulates the EC from political attacks. Thirdly, it can act as a constitutional lesson in India's troubled times. And finally, these changes recognizes the fine distinction between conventional democracy and constitutional democracy. Now let us know what are the challenges associated with the changes to process of selecting election commissioner. First is judicial activism. According to the government, in the absence of a law, the president has the constitutional power. Hence, judiciary's committee guidelines are seen as an era of judicial activism by some experts, and know that even the government has also asked the court to exhibit judicial restraint. Secondly, it is against the doctrine of separation of power. See, the constitution has given powers to the parliament to frame the law with respect to the appointments of election commission. The Supreme Court's intervention in this domain is regarded as a disregard for the separation of power. This is also against the basic structure of constitution. Then know that the judicial intervention is said to be against the idea of constitution is supreme. The words subjected to provisions of any law made on that behalf by Parliament is mentioned in the Article 324. These words are mentioned and have been included only after prolonged discussion in the Constituent Assembly. This highlights that the government can decide and frame any law. Also, the debates in the Constituent Assembly made clear that Parliament will step in and provide norms to govern the appointment of CEC and ECs. Secondly, a law by the Parliament is final, and executives have no power to call the shots in matters of appointments of election commission. Fourthly, the success is said to be uncertain. For the CBI, a similar panel for making appointments has been set up, but there is no clear proof that the CBI director maintains independence. Also, having the CJI on appointment committees could give all appointments extra legitimacy and make it harder for judges to look objectively for mistakes or flaws in the process. So what shall be done forward? Firstly, extend safeguards to other election commissioners. The procedural safeguards in place for affecting the removal of CEC should be extended to other election commissioners also. Then a CEC like Supreme Court judge can be removed from office only by a way of parliamentary process. However, no such protection of tenure is available to the election commissioners. This should be extended to election commissioners also. Secondly, the retired member of the election commission shall be prohibited from taking any office of profit under the state. Similarly, he or she should be prohibited from joining any political party for at least 10 years after relinquishing his office. Then constitutional functionaries have to be not just appointed fairly but also held to account thereafter. So the election commissioner and other regulatory bodies should be made autonomous of the executive, and they shall be held answerable to the designated committees of parliament. So these are the points that are mentioned in the opinion section. Rejecting the political opinions from the article, I have enlisted the points that are necessary from the exam point of view. So that is all about the article. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the next topic. Second topic, gig workers bill, reading between the lines. Gig economy, first let us know what is gig economy and gig workers. Gig economy is the evolving economic model wherein the firms hire workers on a part-time flexible basis rather than as full-time employees. Also, the Code on Social Security 2020 defines gig workers as those who are engaged in livelihood outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. Here, the workers work as freelancers or independent contractors. They generally have flexible and adaptable working hours based on individual preferences. The jobs in gig economy typically requires interacting with the users through online platforms. Example, the drivers engaged with cab hailing platforms such as Uber, Ola, etc. Then we have also come across the delivery workers who are engaged with restaurant aggregators through Zomato, Swiggy, etc. See, these workers who are engaged in such jobs are called gig workers. And gig workers can be broadly classified into two categories. They are platform and non-platform based workers. Platform workers are those whose work is based on online software apps or digital platforms, while non-platform gig workers are generally casual wage workers and own account workers in the conventional sectors. The gig workers can also be classified on the basis of skills. These are high skilled, medium skilled and low skilled workers. According to the Niti Aayog report, at present 47% of gig workers are in the medium skilled jobs, while 22% in high skilled jobs and about 31% in low skilled jobs. Trends show that the concentration of workers in medium skills is gradually declining and those in low skills and high skills are increasing. Now let us know the size of gig economy in India. See, according to the Niti Aayog report, India's gig workforce currently stands at 77 lakh workers by the year 2020-21, and it is expected to rise to 2.35 crore by 2029, and after that workers will form gig workers will form 4.1% of India's total workforce, rising from just 1.5% in 2020. Now coming to the crux of the article, the Rajasthan government has passed the Rajasthan Platform-Based Gig Workers Bill 2023. It is the first legislation of its kind in India outlining welfare schemes for 3 lakh gig workers in Rajasthan. Now let us know the key provisions of the Rajasthan Platform-Based Gig Workers Bill 2023. First is the definition of gig workers. The bill defines a gig worker as a person who performs work in a work arrangement that is outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. Besides this, the bill also includes those who work on contract based on terms and conditions laid down in such contract as gig workers. Then know that the bill applies to aggregators. Those are the digital intermediaries connecting buyers and seller, and this bill will also be applicable to primary employers. They are the individuals or organizations who are engaging a platform-based workers. Then, thirdly, the bill proposes a welfare board. The minister in charge of Labour Department will be the chairperson of the board, and at least 1/3 of its nominated members will be women. It will also have 2 members each from gig workers and aggregators to be nominated by the state government. This board will ensure registration of gig workers and aggregators operating in the state and establish a social security and welfare fund for gig workers. The welfare board, as said earlier, will create a social security and welfare fund. This fund will comprise contribution made by individual workers, state government aids or other sources, and as well as welfare cess. This welfare cess is a part of each transactions that the aggregator is required to pay. That is, for example, Zomato, Swiggy, those aggregators, online platforms will pay a part of their transactions to this welfare cess. The rate of the welfare cess will not exceed 2%, nor it will fall short of 1% of the value of each transaction. And know that the aggregators are required to submit the amount within the first 5 days of a month. Then the bill also provides access to schemes and grievance redressal. The bill provides gig workers access to general and specific social security schemes and opportunities, and they will also be given opportunity to be heard for any grievance and appropriate grievance redressal mechanism. The aggregator's duty under the bill includes depositing welfare cess on time, updating the database of gig workers, then documenting any variations in number within 1 month of such changes. If they fail to comply, they will be fined up to 5 lakhs for the first offense, and they would also be fined to up to 50 lakhs for further violations. Now, after critically examining the provisions of the bill, we can infer that by not defining the gig workers as employees, the bill is limiting in its ability, and it limits in its ability by failing to integrate its existing labor laws into the habit. So from this loophole, the aggregators will continue to remain outside the mandate of labor laws, and they have given the chance of evading the responsibility of providing gig workers with workplace entitlements. Secondly, the bill aims to create a database of gig workers where the details of all the workers registered with the platforms would be transferred to Gig Workers Welfare Board. But the time period of the registration is not mentioned. That is, even if a person leaves the job, the registration will remain in the database. And we don't even know what will happen to gig workers who are using more than one platform for work. Will the government prevent them from working in more than one platform or not is also not known. Then, bill at its core aims to guarantee social security to platform-based gig workers by constituting a welfare board and welfare fund. Here, it brings in 8 aggregators or primary employers-based service under its remit. But it fails to define categorically what constitutes social security. So, these are few criticisms on the bill. Now, let us see what should be done. First is addressing misclassification. Clearly define gig worker status, leading towards employee recognition. Then creating clearer guidelines for areas like grievance redressal and data sharing can also be done. Thirdly, focus should be given on rules and systems for executing the Act's provision without loopholes. Then the worker mobilization that led to legislation must continue during the Act's implementation phase. So then the Rajasthan Act can be used as a model by redefining it for adoption in other Indian states. So these are the 5 points which can be taken into account for furthering welfare and social security to gig workers. With this, let us move to the next topic. Third topic, when will you restore Jammu Kashmir statehood? CJI asks Centre. The central government has recently mentioned in the Supreme Court that it had converted the Jammu Kashmir into union territory only for a stipulated period in order to protect national security. And after some deliberation, the CJI asked the government to commit to a time frame by which the government will restore Jammu Kashmir with a full-fledged statehood. In addition to this, there was a news 2 weeks back that whether the president has the power to scrap Article 370 or not. So from this context, let us deal with this topic. We shall comprehensively discuss this from historical perspective and know what are the benefits for India gained out of nullifying Article 370. Firstly, know that Jammu Kashmir Constituent Assembly was constituted once for the purpose of drafting the constitution of Jammu Kashmir. So when government scrapped Article 370, there were criticisms that only Constituent Assembly of Jammu Kashmir can do that and President does not have such powers. But recently, Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, while heading a constitutional bench, observed orally that Constituent Assembly is not a permanent body like Parliament or Supreme Court. So, Constituent Assembly's recommendation is not necessary for scrapping Article 370. Also, he says, Clause 3 of Article 370 gave the President the power to notify 370. That is, power to notify Article 370 as inoperative or even to modify it. So, President retains the power to scrap Article 370 is what Chief Justice says. Now, let us know about the Article 370 in brief manner. See, Article 370 of Indian Constitution is an article that gave autonomous status to the state of Jammu Kashmir. The article is drafted in Part 21 of the Constitution, which says temporary, transitional and special provisions. The Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, after its establishment, was empowered to recommend certain articles to Indian Constitution that should be applied to the state of JK exclusively. As a result, Jammu Kashmir Constituent Assembly later created the JK States Constitution and dissolved itself without recommending any measure to abrogate Article 370. So previously, this article was deemed to have a permanent feature of the Indian Constitution. But for administrative reasons, it was deemed necessary to revoke this article and ensure sovereignty and unity of the country. In short, Article 370 restricts the Indian Parliament to make any law for the state. Know that Parliament can only preside over the subjects like defense, external affairs and communication. And moreover, laws related to union and concurrent list in Jammu Kashmir can be passed only after consultation with the state government. Now, let us know about the impact of revoking Article 370. First is the economic impact. According to Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, Jammu and Kashmir had the highest monthly average unemployment rate of 15% between 2016 and 2019. So, revocation of Article 370 is a step that will enhance investments and job opportunities in JK. Secondly, this significant move opens up potential opportunities for development-led economic growth in the union territories of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. Then if we take the education, it would lead to opening up of institutions of national importance like IITs and IIMs in the valley. Professors who were not ready to go to JK as their children doesn't get admission in schools will now be able to settle there. Then if we take the security angle, the abrogation of Article 370 will strengthen the security in the valley through timely and swift action. That is, national intelligence would strengthen against terrorism through better presence in the valley. However, it will take some time to do so. Also, due to designation as union territory, the state's police will not be answerable to Kashmir-based politicians. Rather, the police will be answerable to the central government. This move will help the center better control violence in the Kashmir area. Then if we take the administrative angle, the downgrading of Kashmir's status from state to union territory has some important implications. Because as being declared union territory, Jammu Kashmir will be directly handled by the central government. Then the new union territory of JK will resemble that of Puducherry and Delhi, while the union territory of Ladakh will resemble union territories of Andaman and Nicobar. Thus, it will help central government to work for the development of the region. Know that previously, 73rd and 74th Amendment pertaining to the elections of local bodies were not applicable in the state of Jammu Kashmir. Now, local participation will increase in the governance after implementation of these acts. Then if we take the corruption area, many of India's anti-corruption law were not applicable in Kashmir. But now, central government can effectively act against corruption, paving way for the development of the region. Then the sixth is regarding rights. See, Kashmir citizens were denied many of the advantages of modern India. For example, the Article 370 prevented the implementation of right to education in the valley. It also denied residents of erstwhile Kashmir, state of Kashmir, the advantages of reservation system for the benefit of disadvantaged class. Now, Jammu Kashmir people will enjoy all such rights. Then if we take the regional impact, the only country that have been directly provoked by India's action are Pakistan and China. Pakistan's protest is guided by vested interest to occupy whole region, while China is concerned about its occupied 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 part. This division will effectively separate India's territorial disputes with Pakistan from its dispute with China. So, Pakistan's dispute will largely focus on the valley, while China will largely focus upon claims to 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿. Know that although China would not cause much problem, Pakistan would increase its state-sponsored terrorism in the valley, which supports anti-Indian elements in the valley. And it would lead to violence in the region and may cause rift among the people of the Jammu Kashmir. But with much better control in the valley, government and security agencies need to proactively act to contain such acts. Thus, we can say this move is bound to have a significant impact on the demography, culture and politics of Jammu Kashmir. But however, government should reach out to the people of Jammu and Kashmir and assure them security and better governance. So that is all about the article. Now let us move to the third article. Fourth topic, IAS officer 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻 graft in Jhajjar Mission scheme in Jammu Kashmir. Says he was harassed by Lieutenant Governor. A senior IAS officer has alleged irregularities in procurement of pipes for Jhajjar Mission. So in this context, let us know about the mission from prelims point of view. See, if we take Jhajjar Mission, this was launched by the Ministry of Jal Shakti in the year 2019. The aim is to provide safe and adequate drinking water through individual household tap connections by 2024. And know that the objective is to attain this goal in all households across rural India. The goal is to have Har Ghar Jal, meaning every house in the village is to be provided with a functional tap connection. If we take the needs for Jhajjar Mission, first is to access clean water reduces the burden of waterborne diseases. then there is a prerequisite to ensure improved sanitation and hygiene, leading to overall improvement in the public health. Thirdly, know that the mission relieves women and young girls from the age-old drudgery of fetching water from a distance. And also, it gives them the time to pursue education of their choice. Then finally, this mission ensures that water does not become a limiting factor in India's rapid socio-economic development. Now, if we take the key features of the mission, firstly, the mission is decentralized, demand-driven, and community-managed program. Here, the Gram Panchayat will play a key role in planning and implementation. Secondly, the mission includes extensive information, education, and communication as a key component of the mission. Thirdly, the Jal Jeevan mission will also implement source sustainable measures as mandatory elements. This includes measures such as recharge and reuses through grey water management, water conservation, and rainwater harvesting. Fourthly, the mission provides a bottom-up 5-year village action plan through the formation of Village Water and Sanitation Committee. Further, under this mission, know that states will give priority to water quality affected areas, then villages in drought prone and desert areas will be given higher priority, then certain villages with scheduled caste, scheduled tribe majority members will be given priority. Then finally, the aspirational districts and Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana villages will be given higher priority by the state governments. So these are few facts related to Jal Jeevan mission from prelims perspective. So that is all about the article. So with this article, let us close this topic and move to the final topic of the day. Fifth and the final topic, NHRC notice to UP for attack on student. The news is that National Human Rights Commission issued a notice to Uttar Pradesh government seeking a detailed report on a matter where we could have come across, there was a viral video showing a teacher asking a students to beat a Muslim student. So now the NHRC issued a notice to UP government seeking a detailed report on that matter. So in this context, let us discuss about National Human Rights Commission from exam point of view. See, NHRC is a statutory body that was set up in the year 1993. Know that the commission is the watchdog of human rights in the country, and know that it works to protect the right of life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individuals, which are guaranteed by the constitution. Now, if we take the structure of NHRC, the commission consists of a chairperson, 5 full-time members, and 4 deemed members. The statute lays down qualifications for the appointments of the chairperson and members of the commission. Now, if we take the powers and functions of NHRC, first is with respect to investigation. They have the power to investigate complaints or on account of failure of any public officials regarding the violation of rights. Know that while making an inquiry into a complaint, the commission, that is the National Human Rights Commission, enjoys the power of a civil court. Second, prevention and safeguard. Monitoring the living conditions of the inmates and to make recommendations thereon is one of the functions of NHRC. Adding to that, they could also review statutory safeguards or treaties for protection of human rights. Third, research and promotion. NHRC promotes research and encourages NGOs in the field of human rights. It also studies treaties and other international instruments on human rights and makes recommendations for their effective implementation. Fourth is the function of intervention. NHRC intervenes in any proceedings involving any allegations of human rights violation which are pending before the court. Fifth, human rights. See, fifthly, NHRC reviews the factor including acts of terrorism that inhibits the enjoyment of human rights, and after analyzing it, it recommends appropriate remedial measures. Sixth is awareness. NHRC spreads human rights literacy among various sections of society and promotes awareness of the safeguard available for protection of these human rights. Then finally, NHRC encourages the efforts of non-governmental organizations and institutions that are working in the fields of human rights. So these are few functions of the human rights which are delegated to the NHRC as an institution established under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. So that is all about the article. So with this, let us close the news articles discussion and move to the previous year prelims question discussion. Coming to the previous year prelims question, let us consider this first question. Which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effects? Options given are option A, repayment of public debt, option B, borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit, option C, borrowing from the bank to finance a budget deficit, option D, creating a new money to finance a budget deficit. See, borrowing from public and banks will lead to decrease in the money supply in the market. So, in both the options, money in hand is reduced for the public and even the banks will have lesser money to lend. So, these two options will not lead to inflation. Considering these two options, creation of new money to finance a budget deficit will have more inflationary effect than repayment of debt. So, the correct answer for this question is option D, creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. Coming to the second question, R2 Code of Practices constitutes a tool available for promoting the adoption of option A, environmentally sustainable practices in electronics recycling industry, option B, ecological management of wetlands of international importance under the Ramsar Convention, option C, sustainable practices in the cultivation of agricultural crops in degraded lands, option D, environmental impact assessment in the exploitation of natural resources. See, R2 stands for responsible recycling and it is a standard specifically created for electronics recycling by the SERI, which is called as Sustainable Electronics Recycling Initiative. So the correct answer for this question is option A, environmentally responsible practices in electronics recycling industry. So with this, we have come to the end of the news articles and question discussion. Let us wind up this session. If you can understand the concepts well, and if you like the method of teaching, please like, share, comment and subscribe to ForumIAS in various social media platforms. Thank you.